Chapter 10: The Shadow of Spotlight. Unpacking the Strain on Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier's ill-fated romance. Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier. The names alone evoke images of classic Hollywood glamour, theatrical brilliance, and a love story that was, for a time, the envy of the world. Their affair, clandestine and passionate, sparked with the intensity of a stage drama, culminated in a highly publicized marriage in 1940. They were the golden couple, destined for a life of mutual admiration and artistic synergy. Yet behind the dazzling façade, a tempest brewed. The relentless demands of their burgeoning careers, coupled with Vivien Leigh's increasingly debilitating struggles with mental health, gradually eroded the foundations of their bond, culminating in a heartbreaking separation and divorce. This chapter delves into the escalating pressures that plague the relationship between these two titans of stage and screen. We examine how their individual ambitions, the crushing weight of public expectation, and the devastating impact of Leigh's bipolar disorder contributed to the unraveling of their legendary love story. The double-edged sword of ambition. Both Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier were driven by an insatiable hunger for success. Olivier, already a respected figure in British theater, craved global recognition and the allure of Hollywood. Leigh, captivating audiences with her beauty and emerging talent, was determined to prove she was more than just a pretty face. The pursuit of these individual ambitions, while understandable, placed immense strain on their relationship. Olivier's move to Hollywood in the late 1930s, followed by Leigh's subsequent success with Gone with the Wind, 1939. Thrust them into the harsh glare of the American film industry. They were suddenly competing in a cutthroat environment, vying for roles and recognition. This inherent competition, while arguably a natural byproduct of their chosen profession, fostered a sense of rivalry that chipped away at their intimacy. While they attempted to collaborate on projects, notably their ill-fated theatrical production of Romeo and Juliet in 1940, the pressure to succeed as a couple only amplified their individual anxieties. The production was a critical and financial disaster, leaving both Olivier and Leigh deeply scarred and highlighting the challenges of blending their personal and professional lives. Furthermore, the constant travel demanded by their respective careers created significant periods of separation. Olivier's commitment to directing and acting in Shakespearean films in England often kept him away from Leigh, who was frequently engaged in film projects in America or international tours. These physical distances fostered emotional distance, making it increasingly difficult to maintain the intimacy and connection that had initially defined their relationship. The very spotlight that had drawn them together now cast long shadows over their partnership, highlighting the sacrifices required to maintain their individual stardom. The weight of public perception. Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier were not just performers. They were cultural icons. Their every move was scrutinized, analyzed, and often sensationalized by the media. This constant public gaze imposed a tremendous pressure on their relationship, forcing them to maintain a picture-perfect image even when they were struggling internally. The media eagerly chronicled their romance, painting a narrative of idealized love and unwavering devotion. This relentless attention, while initially flattering, created unrealistic expectations that were impossible to meet. The couple felt compelled to perform the role of the perfect couple, masking the growing tensions and insecurities that simmered beneath the surface. Furthermore, the intense scrutiny surrounding Leigh's mental health exacerbated the situation. Her struggles with bipolar disorder were often dismissed as mere temperament or diva behavior, further marginalizing her experiences and adding to the pressure she felt to conform to societal expectations. The media's insensitivity only amplified her suffering and made it more difficult for her to seek help and support. The pressure to maintain their flawless public image, coupled with the insensitive and often judgmental attention surrounding Leigh's mental health, created a suffocating environment that further strained their relationship, forcing them to live a life dictated by public perception rather than personal authenticity. The unforgiving grip of mental illness, perhaps the most devastating factor contributing to the demise of their relationship, was Vivien Leigh's struggle with bipolar disorder. This debilitating illness manifested in extreme mood swings, ranging from periods of intense euphoria and creative energy to bouts of profound depression and paranoia. These episodes placed an immense strain on her relationship with Olivier, who often found himself struggling to cope with her unpredictable behavior and provide the support she desperately needed. During her manic phases, Leigh could be impulsive, extravagant, and even reckless, engaging in risky behaviors that often embarrassed and alienated Olivier. Her depressive episodes, on the other hand, left her withdrawn, despondent, and unable to function, placing a heavy emotional burden on her partner. While Olivier initially tried to be supportive, the relentless nature of Leigh's illness gradually wore him down. He struggled to understand her erratic behavior and often felt helpless in the face of her suffering. The lack of understanding and effective treatment for mental illness in that era further compounded the problem, leaving both Leigh and Olivier feeling isolated and overwhelmed. The impact of Leigh's mental health on their relationship was undeniable. It fueled arguments, eroded trust, and created a constant undercurrent of anxiety and uncertainty. Despite his initial efforts, Olivier ultimately found himself unable to cope with the demands of caring for someone with such a complex and challenging condition. This is not to diminish his love for her, but rather to acknowledge the devastating impact of mental illness on even the strongest relationships, the inevitable unraveling, the cumulative effect of these pressures, the demands of their careers, the weight of public expectation, and the relentless grip of Leigh's mental illness proved to be too much for their relationship to bear. By the late 1950s, the cracks in their seemingly perfect façade had widened into irreparable fissures. Olivier's own personal struggles, including his demanding career and increasing disillusionment with their relationship, also played a role in their eventual separation. He sought solace in other relationships, further distancing himself from Leigh and fueling her insecurities. In 1960, after years of turmoil and heartache, Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier officially separated. Their divorce, finalized in 1960, marked the end of one of the most celebrated and scrutinized romances in Hollywood history. A legacy of love and loss. The story of Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier serves as a poignant reminder of the complex and often contradictory nature of love and ambition. Their relationship, initially fueled by passion and mutual admiration, ultimately succumbed to the relentless pressures of fame, mental illness, and the inherent challenges of navigating a life in the spotlight. While their marriage may have ended in heartbreak, their legacy as two of the greatest actors of the 20th century remains undeniable. They left behind a body of work that continues to inspire and captivate audiences, forever etching their names in the annals of theatrical and cinematic history. Their story also serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of prioritizing mental health and the devastating impact that untreated illness can have on relationships. It underscores the need for greater understanding, compassion, and support for those struggling with mental health challenges. Ultimately, the story of Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier is a reminder that even the most dazzling love stories can be vulnerable to the harsh realities of life, and that even the brightest stars can be eclipsed by the shadows of their own internal struggles. It is a story of passionate love, breathtaking talent, and ultimately, the heartbreaking loss of a connection that could not withstand the weight of its own extraordinary circumstances.